Hello and welcome to the NewWorldReview, your source for everything anime and manga, and today we are here to engulf ourselves in the sheer desolation that is the Spade Kingdom arc of Black Clover. Or at least I think that's what it might be called. I don't know, on the wiki it just says Arc 11, which is such a lame name for such a powerhouse experience. And sadly, no, I did not reach the end of it in one sitting. I got to around chapter 260, which felt like a pretty depressing yet natural place to stop, with far too much to discuss as it is. And for some reference, that's about the point where Yami got abducted and Asta got left in despair. Poor Asta. But at least he has a cool sword now. That is a definite plus. In any case, there was too much to discuss, which was quite problematic really, just like you not being subscribed to the NewWorldReview. Problematic because how else will I know that you would like regular Black Clover content uploaded straight into your YouTube feed? You gotta think about these things. But alright, the premise of this arc seems almost wildly simple. Asta and select friends of Asta have been training in the Heart Kingdom for the past 6 months. During that time, Asta has gotten big, very big. Not taller, I think just wider, but still very wide. Then all of a sudden the Spade Kingdom invades and we spend, I think, a good 30 chapters locked in non-stop devil-fraught death-defying combat. So it's somewhat like the beginning of the reincarnation arc, in a way, just with significantly less build and lead in time with the whole Royal Knight fiasco thing, and that was definitely noticeable. Tabata wasted no time at all throwing us straight into the deep end here, and bam, before I knew it, we were locked in battle with all three of the Dark Triad. The evil Spade dudes and the one dudette. And you can more or less divide this 30 chapter part of the arc into a simple discussion about each one of them. The first member we were properly introduced to being Zeno, who was entrusted with the mission of assaulting the Golden Dawn headquarters in an effort to obtain William vengeance and his delightful World Tree magic. And the first thing of note is that I like William's new lifestyle choice not to wear his mask around all the time or even at all. That's a pretty big step considering that he is still cursed and everything, but it is also very thematically appropriate, given that he has nothing left to hide after that whole elf event. So as a result, there is no internal need for a mask, and as such, no need for an external mask. Fantastic. As for Zeno himself, I have no strong impression of him at this stage. Out of the three Dark Triad members, he's the most stoic and serious. He's your classical, cool and collected bad guy. He has a great design though. I do like the positioning of the cross on his face. I also do like his bone magic. That looks very cool, but otherwise, he's just a little bit too plain to me at this point. Although part of the problem with that may be that Zeno's part of the story here is completely overshadowed by Yuno, who, well, as it turns out, is not only a member of royalty, as I've been assuming, but he is actually the lost prince of the Spade Kingdom. Certainly wasn't quite expecting him to be that important, but it's a nice confirmation of my working thoughts regarding him. Everything just makes perfect sense with this revealed, and by everything, I mostly mean just his natural talent. Of course, it does throw an interesting question into the mix as well. As the royalty of the Spade Kingdom, will this impede Yuno's quest to become the Wizard King? Like, will he eventually take up that sort of role, but on behalf of the Spade Kingdom, leaving the door wide open for Asta to become the Wizard King of the Clover Kingdom, and thus engineering a situation where both of them get to do that thing that they wanted to do? Or maybe because the Diamond and Heart Kingdoms are in ruins anyway, we'll end this arc with all four nations coming together under one ruler and keep that rivalry in tow. I don't know. Thoughts to be had by me right now. However, this arc has finally given me what I've wanted to see for quite some time, which is Yuno having his ass handed to him. It was quite something to finally see Yuno hit that all-important wall that Asta seems to charge into with every minor step he takes, because Yuno has never really been put in a spot where he's had to do that cool thing of surpassing his limits. His limits were just always naturally outrageous. But now, he's going to have to do that exact thing, and what results is bound to be pretty amazing. Although another highlight here was the very surprising Klaus. It's now incredibly clear that he has adopted Asta's mentality, and over the past 6 months, perhaps even more, Klaus has seen himself rigorously train and surpass his own limits as a magic knight. Sadly though, it did not help a whole lot, if at all in the end, but I still appreciated that character growth. I also thought that maybe, just maybe, Tabata might have finally killed someone worthwhile, that someone being Klaus. Seeing Klaus's body hanging on the verge of death sent a sudden jolt down my spine before I realized that this was Black Clover and everyone was healed. I mean, to be fair, no, not everyone was healed. There were heavy casualties within the Golden Dawn. They just, well, they happened to be the characters that we didn't know and or care about. All the ones that we did know and care about survived, so yeah, that's convenient. Still, we are getting one closer to a meaningful death, so I will take it. Elsewhere, the Heart Kingdom is being invaded by our second Dark Triad member, Vanica, who I would say is probably my favorite because she has by far the most personality, even if it is really channeled into this devilishly dominatrix lifestyle. And who knows, perhaps that's what I like most about her. In any case, she is also a lot more meaningful at the moment because her devil happens to be Megicula, the one who cursed Noelle's mother. So already I feel I have a much more vested interest in seeing her defeat as opposed to the other two. So of course it's highly appropriate that she became Noelle's opponent, sort of. Which, speaking of, that fight was kind of amazing. Firstly, I love that Noelle got to show off her training on a couple of different levels, one of which would be a new iteration of the Valkyrie armor designed specifically to allow Noelle to fight within water. Valkyrie armor, Mermaid Edition. And also Noelle has this distinctly more Asta vibe going on about her now. And there was this particular moment where she did a very Asta thing, which was his trademark suicide launch right at Vanica, managing to get in a pretty damn good strike as well. And apart from Yami, I really do think that Noelle is one of my favorite characters to see in combat in Black Clover. She has a ton of raw power, a variety of applications, and now an enduring never give up attitude. Clad her in some magic warrior armor and we are good to go. More of this, please. And the Heart Kingdom had a bunch of other fun fights as well, involving Charmy, Locke, and Leopold. I'm not going to go into all of them in any depth at all, I don't really care enough, but it was intriguing to see the evolution of the Black Clover magic system at play, such as invoking features like true magic and arrays. I always enjoy new features like that, and how they get casually integrated into future fights like we now have with Mana Zone and Mana Skin and such. What I'm not quite enjoying is our new scaling system, this whole stages thing. Within a couple of chapters of being introduced, it feels almost completely meaningless, because even the fodder style disciple dudes in this arc are automatically stage zeros, and a whole ton of our characters just sit in the arcane stage anyway. And it's just like, well, why even bother introducing the system if everyone of importance, and in fact even those of very minimal importance like the disciples, are just always going to be at the top of that pyramid anyway. Probably the only decent thing that stages have going for them right now is a brief flashback with Magna flagging him as a stage 5 or whatever, and assumedly motivating him to grow and return at some point. Otherwise, I just got kind of sick of the stage talk. Although nowhere near as much as the percentage talk. Holy crap, at some points in this arc it felt like old school Dragon Ball Z all over again, with villains claiming that they're only using X% of their power. And it's all just unnecessary scaling, and I feel like they'd all be much more threatening villains if we had no idea how close they were to using their maximum devil potential. Which I suppose brings us to Dante, who has probably the most exciting segment, getting to face off against Asta and Yami. Before getting into that though, I do want to say that Asta has changed during these 6 months. And not just in terms of width either, I mean he has, but also mentally. He's matured a hell of a lot, which is very apparent in his first scuffle with the Spade Kingdom nobodies. During the section, Tabata both drew and wrote Asta in a much more mature vein. And the way I would describe it is, if pre-time skip Asta was a boy full of baseless confidence, then post-time skip Asta is a man whose confidence has a very firmly rooted base. He isn't all talk anymore, and I really like this new version of him. Also, he can fly on a sword, which is, that's cool and highly useful. Back to Dante though, this is the most interesting section because he unveils our big plan thing, which involves a surprising combination of Yami and William. Combination of arcane world tree and dark magic required to open a magical tree channel known as Clifoth or Cliffith. I've never really been sure which one it is, but it's a name that I'm quite familiar with due to Berserk, where it gets used for much the same sort of purpose, a bridge between worlds. Which is fun. I do like the idea of mixing and matching magic like this. I mean, we need an evil tree, sure, let's grab the tree guy and the dark guy and we'll smush them together, thus resulting in some sort of dark tree. I like it. And Yami does go on to have a pretty spectacular battle against Dante, once again doing the thing he does and surpassing his limits right there on the spot. Although on this one occasion, not even that was enough, and he implored Asta for help. The two of which made a pretty fantastic team, especially right at the end where Asta ran out of swords, so Yami tossed his own to deliver the final blow. It was so damn cool. And I did notice that after Yami got captured, his sword was still there. So I do hope that Asta inherits it and becomes significantly more of a badass than he already is. Maybe even incorporate it into his anti-magic shenaniganry book. Of course, to win the fight against Dante, Asta also needed to have a conversation with Mr. Devil, or I'm assuming Mr. Devil. I don't know his or her name yet. Although we get lots of other devil names such as Luciferio and Zagreb, the latter of which was the name of the devil that we had previously defeated. What we do know is that Asta's devil is seemingly very lowly ranked compared to Zagreb, Megicula, Luciferio, and I don't remember the other one's name if we did find that out. Still, as it turns out, Asta's devil is basically the devil equivalent of Asta. Low-ranking peasant scum. So they should make quite a great team, really. Meanwhile, Dante is defeated, but not before presenting his opposing philosophy of only being most human when unleashing your darkest emotions. So he is being set up as Asta's polar opposite, and I have to say, I was surprised that he was actually beaten at the end. Especially at a mighty 80% of devil power. But then again, if this arc is going to be anything like Tabata's previous entries, then I imagine that our Spade trio aren't actually going to end up as the major climactic antagonist, and there will be someone or something or some things plural even bigger to take down. As far as the arc goes so far though, Tabata has moved in pretty fast and furiously. I really wasn't prepared for the speed in which we just casually mentioned stuff like, oh yeah, the Diamond Kingdom's been like totally conquered off screen, well almost totally conquered, and just yeah, in general the stakes went from 0 to 1,000 just in an instant. And something else I also want to ask manga readers about, I'm just curious, but are Black Clover chapters shorter at this point? It might just be because they were mostly action based, but it feels like going through chapters took much less time than usual. I noticed that most of them were around 15 pages, which is definitely less than your standard 18 that gets published in Weekly Shonen Jump for other series, and I'm not sure if it's been like that the whole time and I just didn't notice, or if at this point Tabata is cut down for some sort of reason. In any case, this whole Spade Kingdom business does hold a lot of promise. I very much enjoy that we're now getting to see devil usage beyond Asta, and any time that someone accesses that devil power, it results in simply stunning artwork from Tabata. He has a really solid mastery of how to use shades and just pure black to great effect, as well as a fun general devil aesthetic to play with. But really, this is going to be another long one, isn't it? 30 chapters or so down, and I feel like we've only just finished the introduction. This whole section was one big showcase of initial battles and a widespread call to action. And I don't know exactly how much of the series is left. I think it's only about 20 chapters or so at the time of this recording before I need to make that switch to weekly. But regardless, I very much do look forward to finishing the Black Clover journey next week. And what do you guys think? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below or even join my Discord server. And if you're keen for some more Black Clover content, then please do feel free to check out some of my other videos or even subscribe to the channel for very, maybe regular Black Clover goodness delivered straight into your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been the New World Review, and I'll see you next time.